honourable member for Welland.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank my colleague from Parkdale High Park for all her hard work on the Finance Committee as it worked itself through there, and for her diligence in keeping this government to account as a critic for finance for the official opposition. But what I'd like to ask my colleague to expound on, as a critic for agriculture for the official opposition, I know all too well a piece of that omnibus bill legislation that was sent to us around the Canada Grains Act, a very important act, Mr. Speaker, for grain growers across this country. And yet it was sent to us with basically, here it is, have a look, send it by, thank you very much. Does the member agree with me that what should have happened is that piece of legislation for the Canada Grains Act should be a separate piece of legislation sent to the Committee of Agriculture, have the committee deal with it as a separate act, brought it back to this House with recommendations and amendments and witnesses who actually had a chance to testify wholesomely, and indeed should have been separate legislation that we could have then have voted on this House one way or the other, yes or no to those particular changes under the Grains Act. I wonder if my colleague from Parkdale High Park would have a comment to that.
The honourable member for Parkdale High Park.
Well, I thank my colleague for a real question and a substantive one. And yes, these changes to the Canada Grain Act were done without consultation, will have significant impact for grain producers. And clearly it should have been a separate bill that was sent to the Agriculture Committee, so there could have been witnesses heard, questions asked by parliamentarians, and hopefully the result would have been a bill and ultimately a law that grain producers and MPs of all parties would have supported. And sadly, and this is why we've been so tough in opposing this legislation, is this government has refused that process and has denied democratic opportunity for MPs who are elected to represent their communities. So the grain producers have not been heard on this. MPs from rural areas have not been heard.